This is Brooke Wanser. I'm the reporter for the Franklin homepage, and today I'm here with Scott Speedy, who is a candidate for Alderman in Ward 3. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you would bring to the table as an alderman?
Sure. I guess in this last 7 months, there's probably been two questions that people really ask the most of me. It's like, one is, why do you want to be an alderman? And then two, what do you have to bring to the position of alderman? And the why, I tell people, is pretty simple. Franklin's my hometown. We moved here in 1981. Dad was transferred down to the Nashville office for the Secret Service. Mom and Dad picked Franklin because of the quality of life, the housing, and really the most importantly was the quality of the schools. I got two younger brothers, so strong schools were important to them. Um, I love living in Franklin. I've decided to raise my family here. Kathy and I have built our careers here. We've got three kids in the local school system. My son is a sophomore at Centennial High School. We've got an 8th grade daughter at Freedom Middle School and a 5th grade daughter at Freedom Intermediate, Freedom Middle, Freedom Intermediate. And I've also got parents who are retired here. So one day I hope to join them in retirement. So really I just want to kind of make sure that Franklin continues to be a great place to live. Kathy and I have always been very involved in the community. As an ex-athlete, one thing I did was I coached about 35 youth sports teams over the years. Kathy's been involved in the schools with Girl Scouts. She was FSSD Volunteer of the Year twice, I think. And then we just volunteered through the Heritage Foundation and other nonprofits in town. So I almost view this as maybe the next natural progression of my community service. So that's maybe a little bit of the why. What do I have to offer? For the last 18 years, I've been I'm a financial planner. So in my day-to-day job, I'm meeting with individuals, families, business owners. And part of my job is to take them through the financial planning process, whether it's financial security, financial independence. We all have multiple planning needs. If we're a family, a business, a city, and we also have usually limited resources. So it's usually my job to kind of help prioritize those planning goals, hopefully meet as many planning goals as we can with the resources we have. And so again, to be as efficient as possible, utilize those resources in the best manner. And I think that skill set maybe translates a little bit over to what people are looking for in an alderman. The alderman help set the strategic direction of the city of Franklin. And as we all know, there's a lot of planning needs that Franklin has with the growth, which is a good thing. And so again, I think people want to make sure we're utilizing and deploying the resources, the tax dollars that we have as efficiently as possible. So essentially being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So I guess to sum those two things up, I feel like I got the life experiences of 36 years of being around Franklin, just the professional experience, and the experience of running a small business. A lot of people, we want people in our community that are willing to invest their capital, to employ people, to pay property taxes, to pay sales taxes. And I feel like I understand those people. We want their businesses to grow. At the same time, along with the chamber, we want to recruit more and more businesses into the area just to can further kind of diversify our tax base. We don't want to be hit if one business leaves town that we're hurt economically. So I guess that's maybe kind of the why and the what for why I'm running.
Are there issues that you feel are not being addressed by the incumbent that you would address as alderman?
I think one big issue is probably the Columbia Avenue widening project. The board recently did vote 5-3 to go with the 5-lane concept. That's been going on for a couple years now. I think if you've gone to those open houses, if you've seen the comment cards, we've got businesses there that have been there for multiple generations. It's a light industrial area, and obviously the goal of that $21 million is we want to improve the traffic flow, but we also want to make sure we do it in a way that benefits those businesses and doesn't harm them. And I think the business community over there maybe felt like some of the aldermen were a little bit maybe tone deaf and not listening to them. So I think that was one big issue. I think people forget probably before where we're sitting, Cool Springs, that was the economic engine of our community for multiple generations. Backing up probably to 2011 when that grant came through, a lot of people feel like really the big picture, we should have focused on completing the loop. If you complete that southwest loop of Mac Hatcher, a lot of that traffic that is coming down Downs, Columbia Avenue, still going to be a busy thoroughfare, but just the regional impact of Mac Hatcher was probably just a bigger rock to put in the bucket first.
Okay, so I have a list of questions relating to, so we're sitting in the Chamber of Commerce, so these are business questions, is what we're going to be focusing on today. My first question is, what is the status on the proposal to replace City Hall, and is that a priority to you?
When I looked at the capital investment plan, I know that was prioritized for early 2020s. I would say that's not a big priority for me. I think some of the infrastructure challenges that we've got right now with the roads, with the water treatment facility, with the education funding we've got, I don't think that'd be high on my list. I think if we did do it, that's probably some pretty valuable land downtown City Hall. I'm not sure if City Hall needs to be right there on the square. Maybe we move it out farther to Columbia. Or maybe not Columbia, maybe somewhere where the infrastructure can handle those city employees.
So paid parking spaces recently became a reality on some private property in downtown Franklin. Should the city get in on paid parking or metering?
I would probably say that's something we'd leave to the private business owners on that. I'd probably want to try to limit the size of our government as much as possible, and we'll let private business deal with parking.
Williamson County and Middle Tennessee in general has been a hotbed of economic growth for a number of years. What is it that this area has naturally or policy-wise that other areas of the state don't?
I think from a state perspective, if you listen to our legislators, Representative Sargent, Casta, Whitson, Jack Johnson, Tennessee is a very low tax state, and that is very attractive to businesses that want to relocate here. So I think from a statewide level, we've got an advantage. I think the boom that Nashville has had has obviously benefited Williamson County, but we like to think we're part of that boom as well. I think, again, going back to 1981, probably one reason my parents came here, the school systems. I mean, Williamson County has excellent school systems. You can live in Davidson County and pay higher property taxes, and more than likely, if you're looking for a collegiate education experience for your kids, you're probably going to pay private tuition. You can pay a lot of mortgage and a lot less property taxes in Williamson County. So again, the school systems, and I know we're up against probably some funding hurdles right now. It's either the sales tax referendum or the education impact fees. But schools, the low tax rate, again, and I think people just enjoy the four seasons and the quality of life that we've got. And we've done a great job, but there's still a lot more things we can do in Franklin to really enhance that quality of life.
Some people call this corporate welfare, but has this area come to depend on corporate incentives too much for relocation or expansion?
It's interesting. There was an article, I guess, in last week's paper that Metro, the one councilman, John Cooper, definitely feels like Metro has given way more incentives than Williamson County has. So I think, sure, we still want to work with businesses to give them incentives to come here, but I don't think we have nearly the type of corporate welfare that we're dealing with maybe in Nashville and Davidson County. We probably don't have to offer as much because we are a very attractive place to relocate your business to.
Mm-hmm. I've got sort of a question along the lines of that. Much of the infrastructure in Cool Springs was done in conjunction with developers who were required to contribute to support their contribution to traffic volume. How do you feel about this? Is it fair? Should it continue? Are you concerned that it could discourage economic development?
I guess in talking to some of the builders and developers, I think they're fine contributing. I mean, if they're bringing the additional traffic, they're going to work with the city to help build that infrastructure. I think they just don't want the rules changed on them midway. As long as they know what the expectations are, I think most developers feel like they want to do that and work with the city. You look at West Haven, for example, master plan community. They gave the land for that school. They're willing to work with the city, I think, to do what's necessary. Obviously, they still have a profit motive, and then we're going to work to make sure that occurs. But also, I think Franklin has done some of the TIF district, the Tax Incentive Financing District. That's worked out well. I think they're way ahead of their projections and the amount of property taxes that are coming in. They're already repaying that debt faster. They're paying off some of the back end variable rates. So we all know rates are low; they could spike up. So I think that, along with working with the developers, has been successful for Franklin so far.
Can you explain a little bit about what a tax incentive financial district is?
I think basically they go out and can get bonds to develop that infrastructure, and then with the property taxes that will come on as a result of that commercial development, they're able to pay those bonds off, and so it's kind of a tax incentive financing. Probably the difference in some of the residential growth that we've seen, for example, Crothers, that's one thing I've heard a lot about down your way, is they felt like the residential growth has gotten a little bit ahead of the commercial growth down there, and that's causing a little bit of the school overcrowding, or it is causing the school overcrowding. Oakview, Page Middle, Page High School, and the general consensus I've gotten is, and again we hear that aldermen are not responsible for county schools, but yes, we annex that land, we have the roads, the sewer, the water. Maybe there's a little bit of a lack of some collaboration, and that student overcrowding just happened too quickly. So again, we don't want to just do silo planning. We want to make sure we're collaborative and make sure if we need to phase in growth to make sure we don't have school overcrowding, let's do that. And again, as long as we set those expectations, I think the community is fine.
So the next topic is a little bit about affordable housing. So some people call it affordable housing, some say workforce housing. On a chamber trip to Colorado recently, the local delegation was introduced to attainable housing.
Correct.
Do you believe this is an issue? And if so, is there a public role to be played in solving it?
I do. I do like that term, attainable housing. We heard a lot over and over in Denver. I don't think anybody would say we don't want to have a place for police, fire, and teachers to live. We have a lot of people in the hospitality industry that are commuting in from neighboring counties to work in Williamson County. So I think the more people we could potentially get closer to jobs is only going to help the traffic congestion. Envision Franklin does have a good model of trying to have a little bit more mixed housing, maybe the townhome, the condominium, the one story with the house on a quarter of an acre. Along with that mixed use, residential, retail, commercial. Obviously some of that attainable housing, workforce, affordable, needs to be placed where we do have the infrastructure to handle it. I know I've talked to a couple of the community leaders, Hard Bargain, Community Housing Partnership, and I feel like there's some land in Franklin that would be a good use for the affordable housing, where it's walkable to schools, access to the Franklin Transit Authority, access to amenities, grocery stores. And so I do think we want to still be able to give builders and developers incentives to bring on that type of housing to the city of Franklin.
So I know we were just talking about the trip that the Chamber of Commerce and Williamson County delegates took to Denver. So can you tell us a little bit about the transportation you saw there and how you think that relates to transportation and transit issues in Franklin?
Sure. And a little bit about what we learned about was the overall Denver metropolitan area. And you realize, they've been working on this for 40 years. So some of the things are still going to be driven by Nashville, our MPO, the regional concept. But it was refreshing to hear how they really tried to take it away from it's a Franklin versus Brentwood versus Nolensville mentality and benefit the entire community. And we all know Mayor Berry's looking at the $6 billion of light rail. That's something Franklin can't tackle alone. But there were some things that we saw on a local level that were working. Lone Oak, a little bit smaller than Franklin, but they've got some major headquarters there. They talked to some of the business owners about transportation for their workers, and in conjunction with their local transit authorities, their buses and trolleys, they were able to help fund some of that transportation because it benefited their workers. So I think, again, you get back to a very healthy business community, a broad-based community, the more successful our businesses are, I think the more opportunities we do have for some public-private partnerships, whether it's in transit, whether it's in our parks. We also saw some good examples of some businesses working with the local high schools out there, creating some apprenticeship, internship opportunities that I just think is a great opportunity. We've still got great education facilities here. A lot of kids are going to Columbia State. Maybe it's the associate's route. I think the education model is changing. Not everyone has to go to a four-year school. The example I guess we have out in Fairview, the mechatronics, if I'm saying that right. Some of those kids can come out of that program with a starting salary of $60,000. That's pretty good. So I rambled a little bit. Sorry.
So my next question is about greenways in town. How can we protect green space while upholding private property rights?
Sure, and I think still, if we have some of that higher density development, we are going to be able to preserve as much green space as possible. And I think part of it still is it's educating the community. I do think the Harpeth River is still a very underutilized resource in this town. I'm guilty of it myself. I've lived here for a very long time, and I've only owned kayaks for the last 3 years. But my kids love going and getting dropped off at the eastern flank. And now that my oldest is 15, I can do it with him. And his two younger sisters, I say, okay, call us and we'll pick you up at the Williams County Rec Center. So I do think the Friends of Franklin Parks, the city, part of it is educating. If we're going to put a walkway or a green space behind someone's home, let's help educate them, because nobody likes change. And initially I think we always get the answer of no, stop. Muggers are going to walk that trail, but I think, again, if we educate them and I think they understand that their property values are more than likely going to go up if some of those, all the connectivity, the city, the parks, the river, projects, I've heard Julian Bibb say this, projects like Pinkerton Park, people were against that. Harlansdale Park, people were against that. I went to Pilgrimage this festival, big fan of Harlansdale now. To be able to see Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton come on stage, that's pretty powerful. And then be able to walk home and be home in less than 40 minutes, pretty powerful. So again, I think I'm all for the greenways, the jogging paths, the biking paths, the connectivity. I still think we have a great opportunity with the Harpeth River down along First Avenue, the silos. That could be a tremendous venue, park area. I noticed it walking back from Pilgrimage to 4th Street, where I parked for free for Pilgrimage. You don't even really know the Harpeth River is there unless you're there. So maybe there's a way to help beautify that. I think people would, if they saw that was there, I'm sure the boat locker would love it, because you'd have a great view of the Harpeth right there. So yes, I think I'm all for that. But again, part of it is getting the community involved as early as possible so they know how it's going to benefit them. And the misinformation is not there.
So the next question is about residential communities. Do you expect new urbanism like West Haven to be the dominant form of residential development in the future, or will suburban models of the past be what we see?
I think we're definitely heading towards the master plan communities, and I think Franklin is definitely ahead of probably the Brentwoods, Nolensvilles of the world. I think they're still the one house, 1 acre concept. I think if you drive out to Sunset Split Log Road and those narrow country roads, I think they're just asking for urban sprawl problems out there. So yes, I do think the master plan communities are what is in Envision Franklin. And I know that's a living document and things will change over time, but right now I think it is the West Haven models.
Do you think there's an important balance to strike, or where should the line be drawn when designing these mixed-use residential communities?
Franklin does have, we benefit from a great, we got the Envision planning document, we've got a great planning committee. People forget, I can't remember how many counties it is across Tennessee that don't have housing and planning committees. That a mobile home could go up right next to $1 million home, and so and I think the planning committee does a pretty good job. I mean, things will evolve over time. And I just lost my train of thought, but I'll come back to it. Sorry.
So, if you were to be elected alderman,
yes,
what would your priorities be in the realm of business in Franklin in terms of economic development, in terms of creating job opportunities and housing?
Mm-hmm. Again, as a small business owner, I appreciate any business owner who's willing to invest in the community, to put capital on the line. People forget business owners are the last people who get paid at the end of the month. So again, going back to even the Columbia Avenue widening project, we need to work with those business owners. I mean, I know, yes, we want to improve the safety and the traffic flow, but again, we want to benefit those business owners, not put them out of business. Here's an example. There's one business owner that owns a pizza location over near the Hillsborough Avenue widening project. We all know that's gone on probably way too long, and before that project started, positive cash flow. Since that project has started, he's gone into a negative cash flow position. And his argument is they built the Empire State Building in 2 years. We should be able to get that project done quicker. We need to use the power of the city to make sure that gets done. He has another location on Columbia Avenue. That's his fear. Whatever we do, let's make sure we plan it, and when we start construction, let's get it done. I think there's probably ways the city of Franklin could help those businesses with, local advertising, the Herald, the 950, to, again, they've been such an important fabric of our community. Let's make sure that this minimizes their business losses as much as possible, and make it so that once this project is completed, their property values have gone up. And then the same thing on, again, we want to attract good businesses here, the corporate headquarters, the high-paying jobs, and again, expand that. I'm a financial planner, so we always talk to planners about our clients about diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. We got a lot of great health care, but again, let's continue to recruit as many varied businesses as possible. So I'm just excited because I feel like I'm a business owner. I'm working with so many business owners and professionals. I do feel like I've got a pretty good pulse on the community. I feel like I've got a pretty good pulse on the education side of the community. And just, again, a little bit of life perspective, I'm excited. I've always felt like Franklin has been a place that if you want to be successful here, you can be successful here. Now, you've got to work hard and have that work ethic. But I've always done that, and I think I'll bring that to the alderman position as well. So.
Excellent.
That's why I want to, ask anyone who's taken the time, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch these interviews. I'd like to ask for your vote. Turnout October 4th is early voting, 4th through the 19th, and then October 24th is Election Day.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
This is Brooke Wanser for the Franklin homepage, and we are bringing you alderman candidate interviews for the 2017 election.